Warning: the Sticky Spots explores adult themes and content. The opinions and views expressed within are meant for mature audiences and may be graphic and adult in nature. They do not necessarily reflect the ideals or beliefs of the hosts or producers and are presented for educational and awareness purposes only. This is not health advice. Listener discretion is strongly advised. If you're not comfortable with frank discussions about sexuality, kink, or alternative lifestyles, this might be a good time to bow out. For those staying, prepare for an unfiltered journey into the realm of sexual wellness and education. Let's enter the sticky spot.
Greetings, Ramblers, and welcome to the Sticky Spot podcast. We're glad you can join us today because this is our first inaugural episode. What's this podcast about?
Sex stuff.
Yeah.
Sex
stuff? What kind of sex stuff?
This podcast is about exploring different kinks and sexual interests and preferences.
So you see, the reason why I wanted to start this podcast was because it's going to get me outside of my own box, right? We're going to be looking at things that might not necessarily be something we even understand, but like with that exploration, maybe we'll discover something that about ourselves that we didn't know.
Yeah. Or try something one time and realize that it's not our thing, which is okay too.
I mean, no matter what, at the end of the day, it's always kind of education. Because, you know, safety is always important when it comes to sex. Safety is paramount when it comes to that. And not just sex, but relationships. Because, you know, if you're doing this for the reason, especially within the BDSM realm, like it's not just a physical thing. There's a lot of aspects that, and that's kind of what I like about thinking. Because, like, I know what I really like, and I kind of know why I like it. But at the same time, like, it's interesting to think of like all the ways that I don't see it applied to me. But like, if it's not my thing, like, it's interesting to see why people might like it.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'd say the privilege of I've had the privilege of learning more about myself in that area, in like myself personally and us as a team, as partners, and that like that growth is possible by like the safety that I feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's always important, feeling comfortable, but you know, at a certain point, you know what you like and you know what you don't like, so you kind of just stop once you figure out, once you kind of get comfortable. So it's a good opportunity for us to see other people who are kind of in the same realm, but like with different things, like what they get out of it and what their proclivities and their preferences would be. So either way, it's really fun to think about all the little things that we can do. We got actually a pretty good little structure going. First thing we're going to do is we have essentially a kink generator of sorts, where we got a pretty healthy list of different kinks and fetishes and just different aspects of BDSM in general. And we basically put it in a random number generator. And each podcast, the goal is to have a number picked out, which is a specific subject, and then we'll kind of dive into our own curiosities about just try to understand it, basically, like, whether or not it's something that we could see us enjoying. It's interesting to see like what fulfillment, other people get out of it, and like things like that. And then we'll also dive into some confessionals. I like to think of a section that has either type of confessionals, anonymous, stories, anything that kind of makes us think and talk a little bit, little things like that. So that should be fun. And then I was thinking of a product review of sorts, and I have one in mind that we can take a look at. Because of our lifestyle, we tend to
tend to have some experience with some of these toys and products that I think give us a good, we have a good
good amount
arsenal.
of experience.
Yeah, we have a pretty good arsenal.
Well, no matter what, it's a learning curve with these toys. We've definitely discovered which ones are good and which ones aren't, which ones, to look out for, what brands, things like that. And that's kind of what I want to steer the product, because it was kind of hard to figure it out going along. And, I think we have a healthy handle on it at this point where we can understand some of, the traps or, the little unexpected things like, oh yeah, it works perfect like this, but if you decide to try to use it like this, there's been plenty of little incidences that we've run into. So, we can help shed some light on it, give some honest opinions. We'll definitely put it to use and figure stuff out for you. But that was definitely on the agenda. And then, so we'll see how it goes. So this week's sticky topic was on Phygaphilia. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Phygaphilia?
So just a quick review and summary. We picked a random number generator from 1 to 162. And it landed on 101, which means Phygaphilia. So Phygaphilia. I thought this one was kind of interesting because I had never really even considered this as a possibility for a kink.
So to me, I kind of wondered if it maybe played into like a kidnapping.
So Phygaphilia is the sexual arousal and thrill of being a fugitive.
Specifically a fugitive on the run.
Right.
Okay, so it's not kidnapped. It's but is it?
It's not. It's not abduction. It's definitely like a predator prey aspect of it.
Oh, okay. And what was that one called again? Like primal.
Kind of.
Hunter, prey, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but like it's, as you can see, it's very, I don't want to say, oh, that's primal. No. Like it's primal for sure, but so is sex, right? So does anyone, see what I'm saying? That's a money topic. So anyways, Phygaphilia is the sexual thrill of being a fugitive. And one thing that I never really considered when thinking about this topic was there's so many times when I'm watching the news or hearing a story and it's like, why did you do that? I kind of get it a little bit now. What if like they wanted to, poke the bear and then get chased a little bit? You know what I mean? Like doing little like.
Well, there's definitely people who like to do that just in life, but adding the sexual element, I think is because
I always I get the adrenaline junkie aspect of it for sure, but the fact that like it could be an actual sexual thrill because I've been excited without being sexually excited. So
well, actually, I think it was about 5th or 6th grade that like it playing tag on the playground and like running from someone.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was sexual, but it was exciting.
Well, no,
and I think it was starting to get into that realm of
They'll take turns chasing each other. Like that every animal I think has that aspect of, especially if they're a predator, because that's how you practice. Like the number one reason why cats do what they do when they're playing is so that they're training to hunt. And so there's definitely like a prey predator thrill of it, but I think because if that was the case, then they wouldn't have to break the law in order to do it. Something about the psychological thing of actually being a fugitive,
breaking a rule and being on the run, kind of.
Yeah, like it's a little more complex than just like I like being chased, because I think everyone likes that thrill of like something's like right on your back trying to get you and you're like just inches away from it type of thing. Like
maybe it would be more appealing to people who are perfectionists and who are not rule breakers.
Okay, like dirty boy, dirty.
Yeah. So breaking it down, we might have to separate this into two distinct groups: people who actually do this and people who role play doing it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
With just like with anything.
No, it's yeah. It kind of shedded a light on some behavioral things that I just otherwise maybe didn't understand or just thought that like they were just being dumb. But like if that's what they need to get off, like that's like okay.
Dennis from Always Sunny.
Yeah. Dennis from Always Sunny might be like a prime example of that.
Phygaphilia.
Yeah. I wonder.
I think, yeah. And how many serial killers or criminals who have gone on the run for some kind of crime do you think got some kind of arousal from running? And I mean, I don't want to get too dark with it. Maybe we don't have this part, but like, do you think maybe there's an element of like...
Well, see, that's the thing about like the fact that it's a fugitive aspect of it. You know what I mean? It's not just being chased by something. It's literally like, I would assume, law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Of some kind.
Or a bounty hunter.
Yeah, I mean that they can technically be a fugitive and be chased by like a bounty, but that's still a servant of the court. It's still like
Let's go over
an extension of the law.
real quick, and I probably won't be in there, but like a fugitive. Define a fugitive. Someone who's just on the run from the law. Someone who broke a rule and
The
specifically
rule of man.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Like.
But like in a legal sense, like
yeah, like if
it's not just like getting a parking ticket.
It could be that like you're. Well, I don't think it's the crime aspect of it. Like it could be as simple as you're in a dry county and a cop sees you chugging down, you know, a fifth or something like that, and then you start running, and like, but that's what you got to trigger the fact that I broke the law. Yeah, I'm on the run. Yeah, I'm now a fugitive. I have to like survive now, type of thing.
I don't think I could ever. So I could role play this kind of thing. I could see myself like role playing this kind of thing. But
yeah, I mean, no matter what, like those risky kind of fetishes and stuff, they always get into more like it could be like if you act on like something like that and like instead of role playing it, like instead of doing consensual, non-consensual, like you know what I mean, it gets to an aspect of, I think it's an impulse control issue of sorts, because like everyone has the ooh, I could be so naughty right now, you know.
Well,
feeling.
it's the feeling in hide and seek when you're hiding, and you can sometimes feel and tell when they're getting closer and closer, and you feel like they're about to find you.
The air's different, yeah.
Well, and then if they don't, then it's that kind of like, I got away with it.
I'm a genius, yeah. Hide and seek master.
But like,
so
it's like playing hide and seek, but jacking off while you're hiding.
See, I think there's probably so much adrenaline and so much happening that you probably can't get any type of sexual, like you probably aren't coming until like it's over. And
so like when you're caught or when you aren't caught?
Right, yeah. Like when you get away or when you get caught, like one of those two. I don't think.
The other, my question too is it's only regarding being the fugitive.
That's
so
what I'm
there's
saying.
a separate word for someone who is the one doing the chasing.
Kind
the
of.
person in the role play, is there a word for the person who's playing the cop?
So no matter what,
Like
that's a top.
Yeah.
In a scene, that's a top.
Yeah.
And so that amalgam could be many different types of tops. Like the specific thing that you get out of it could be different than the specific thing that this person gets out of it. But I mean, maybe a big part of it is you're not just getting chased, but like the person chasing you is like, stop in the name of the law. Yeah. You broke the law. You're in big trouble because you broke the like it's a reaffirmation of like you're a fugitive right now. I'm gonna get you, you fugitive.
I just can't help thinking of like other aspects of other things that might play into that. So like if you do want to get caught, is that a humiliation thing? Like there's other sides of it that kind of it's definitely an interesting one. I definitely don't see myself doing that in real life because I am not a rule breaker. And it scares me more than thrills me to think about like breaking rules like that.
See, and it's just funny because every time I'm thinking back to anybody who was like just a troublemaker, like I was totally aware of the adrenaline junkie aspect of it, like getting that like thrill, but like, yeah, the fact that it could have had an innately sexual nature as well kind of makes more sense for why like some people just really seem to want to break the rules. You know what I mean?
I did shoplift a couple times as a teenager, and the one time that I was busted for it was the last time I did it. I learned my lesson. But I did get a little tingle when I, I mean, again, I would never do that now. And I did get in trouble and a fair punishment for my crime. But yeah, I got a little tingle when I wasn't getting caught. I think that's the part where I'm not relatable on that one.
True. This was definitely a really interesting topic in general. Like, much of like anything, I wasn't aware something like that even existed. And then like it was just really interesting to kind of think of just the aspects that I wouldn't have been aware of had I not known that existed, And so what we're going to do at the end of this podcast is we're going to run the number generator and have it pick out what we're going to do for next time. But this time we're going to take the time in between then to do a little bit of independent research. And then we'll come back with our own different perspectives. Our own different thoughts and what we've considered on it. And I think with this first one, we kind of have it now, but now that we can run the random number generator at the end of this one and have it for next time, I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'd be really interested to know of anybody who might have, a story of somebody who maybe they were aware of it and knew that they were totally like that, or maybe somebody now it totally makes sense, and that my uncle was always
so and so.
So I'd be interested to hear any stories and feedbacks on pretty much any topic in general. We'll take a look at it as always. So this next segment is what I like to call stories and confessionals. And for this first one, what I basically did is went through adultconfessions.com. It was a pretty fun website to go through. And I filtered out some different stuff, and I picked a specific topic. And this one, I just decided to pick a fun one, which was embarrassing moments. So the concept is that random anonymous people, whether they wanted to use a username or anonymous, posted some embarrassing, adult moments that they've had. And I figure we'll go through each one and kind of talk about our thoughts on what happened, what maybe should have happened, what we would have done, things of that sort. So this first one is titled Dick Slip. So I think we know where this one's going. This one was submitted by Bob. He identifies as a straight male, 49, and this was submitted in looks like January 23. So there was a grown man staring at my dick slip in the sauna today. It took me about 5 minutes to realize the stuff was hanging out. I've never personally had a dick slip moment, but I have had a ball moment like that, where the window was open just right enough where like a full ball was in view for I honestly don't know how long it was. It could have been a moment, it could have been minutes, like he's saying,
Oh gosh.
So I don't know, have you ever had a situation where you had a slip and it just was for a lot longer than...
Not that it happened to me, but we did go to like a certain pool.
Oh, really? And same situation, like a pool sauna?
Yeah. Well, and it was, the thing was,
I bet you there's a lot of beach stories too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, There's a lot of dick slips at nude beaches too. That's to be expected.
Is it a dick slip?
If you're wearing clothes down there and it slips, it can still be a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, everyone else is naked. Anyways, no, on that, like, we used to go to this specific pool all the time. And there was a sauna, and I really liked going in there, but it was a little awkward when like older guys would come in, and sometimes it would just be me and my brother sitting in there, and like old guys would come in and be all relaxed and kind of let their guard down. All they're wearing is a towel sometimes, and there were a couple times when it's just like you just turn your head to the side and you don't look, and it's like, you don't want them to be embarrassed. And like, does it say if he called? Okay, he didn't call.
It's a very short story.
So it doesn't say what happened after.
No.
If he called them out for staring or like.
No, it sounds like it was a public sauna, so.
Yeah. How long was he staring?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. But yeah.
Well, it doesn't specify specifically if the dude was staring at it the whole time. He just realized that there was a guy staring at it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know if it was like that whole 5 minutes. It could have just been for that moment. But I mean, the best way to handle that kind of situation is it happens, right? Especially if you're in a situation like a sauna. Yep. I mean, like bikini tops are just held together by strings. So.
Yeah. Oh, and I've definitely had my fair share of like beach, like bathing suit slips. You jump into the pool and your suit kind of comes up, but like
you can have it with trunks too.
Yeah.
When you come out.
Yeah.
Because like the pressure pulls on the waist, and if it's not tight enough, or like you have, the worst is pockets that retain water. The pockets need to be able to actually like let the water kind of flow through, because then it weighs your pants down that much more, and when you go to get out, it'll pull on it. So yeah, I mean, that situation is so common. Like, it's one of those things where like you just don't make a big deal out of it. Just kind of keep it moving type of thing. So yeah, that's probably the best way you could have handled that. All right, so for this segment, we're going to be doing our first product review. And I figured this was appropriate due to our lifestyle. We have plenty of good collection of tools and accessories that, you know, range from things we tried once and then things that we incorporate basically into our everyday, you know, experiences. And with things like this, especially when we were first starting, it was really hard to get a grip on even where to start, what to look out for, like not just in brands or quality, but also like material wise. You know, it could be a great product if it was this instead of this, or, you know, there's always a kind of a bit of a learning curve. So I figured it would be really nice to kind of just discuss, you know, what our experiences are, whether the good, the bad, or, you know, whatever. And I figured on this episode, just to get things going in a good way, what I figured we would start with is something that we actually use quite often. So I figured you can kind of discuss exactly what it is we're talking about today.
So this one is the BodyWand Midnight Wired Massager. And it's been one that we've been using for a while, and definitely one of my favorites. And then anyone familiar with wand massagers has probably heard of a BodyWand as a brand. Like, overall, the quality on the products is pretty infamous and easy to use. BodyWand as a brand is pretty well known, and most of you have probably heard of it, but it's very high quality and pretty well known all around the world. Usually these can get pretty expensive, but the Midnight one is a little more affordable.
Definitely budget friendly.
Yeah, more budget friendly. We got ours at the local adult entertainment store for about $70 US. But yeah, they can get pretty pricey. So this one is like a little bit more of a basic, kind of simple, beginner friendly kind of model.
I would call it definitely beginner friendly, or, you know, there are so many there's so many toys and tools that try to be kind of a switchblade of sorts.
Yeah.
And that's totally good if you want to consolidate like your experience into one device.
Yeah.
Because I do understand the hassle of owning multiple, you know what I mean? Like kind of the difference between having like a Swiss Army knife versus a screwdriver and you know, and everything.
I was just thinking of that. Exactly. It's not a multi-tool. It has pretty much one function and it does that function well.
Yeah, so we're going to go into the pros and cons, but we actually have a unique experience with a lot of these tools and toys because, you know, from my experience, most of the time I'm the one actually using them. You know, we do have a couple toys that I can kind of experience a little bit as well, but for a lot of the times it's me using it. So I have a perspective that's just more of a general user, like how easily it's used, you know, what are the pros and cons of that, but you know, you have a perspective that's really unique as somebody who
it's like, being used on.
You have you get more of the experience of what the purpose of the toy is more than I can actually relay. So I figure we'll kind of go back and forth on what we individually think of the pros and cons, and then we can kind of get a fresh perspective on it, and then from there we can give sort of just a general like overall rating. I want to stay away from a definitive point system, but at the same time it's kind of structured like that, like if it's well worth the money, or, you know, or you know, the tool or the toy is good, but the manufacturing of the brand is what's wrong or something like that. So we'll figure it out. So to start, as a user, for me, the big pros is it is wired. The Midnight edition of the BodyWand does not have a rechargeable option. It is the hardwired one. And I elected to get hardwire because at this point, not just between our experience, but my independent experience with a lot of toys that do have rechargeable functions, I hate getting into a situation where it's, you know, hot and steamy and we're about ready to use it and it's not charged. It like it completely changes the game plan of like everything, and it's kind of like annoying to deal with sometimes. So I just prefer having wired. Another thing,
plug it in and go.
While this one doesn't have the detachable head to have attachments, the actual rubber sheath can be removed. And so a lot of cheaper ones, they don't actually, this is like hot glued onto the head itself. So you can't take it off and clean it. Even though the head itself can't be detached, which might cause some issues later down the line, the actual rubber sheath can, or the silicone, I would assume it is, can be removed. So you can clean it pretty effectively. The wired cable itself is extremely long, which is always nice when it comes to toys like this, because a lot of the times, you know, maybe your bed isn't right next to an outlet. So like you don't have to hunt down an extension cable to try to use it.
5.5, 6 feet long.
I want to say it's a good 6 feet long cable.
Very long cable.
The dial itself to control the intensity is really responsive, and I feel like there's a lot of subtle gradient to it. Like it's not just from 1 to 2 to 3. There's like 1.2, 1.3. Like as you raise it up, like it's not just a sharp increase from one you know, intensity to another. There's actual like sort of a gradient or a spectrum to it.
It's like a dimmer on a light switch, because it is an actual dial instead of like a button that you press to increase. Like
but even some dials, they have a click function. So there's still an in between where it's like not changing until it clicks to the next one. That's not the case with this. Like it's a smooth, very roll. Like you can tell the gradient of, or the spectrum of the intensity as it's getting higher and higher.
And it's subtle, but it's noticeable. Like it's not super intense. It's not an intense change. Like for
that's
it being used on me. It's not a super like intense. Ooh, I don't know if I should. It's not a super intense change. It's nice and subtle.
Also, generally speaking, it is lightweight. As somebody who is using it, I'm holding it for extended periods of time. So if it was any heavier, I can see it starting to possibly like weigh. And like
I didn't think of that.
So the fact that it's pretty, like it's a little bit smaller than your traditional like $130 BodyWand that has like the rechargeable and all the attachments. But weight is a big thing for me as somebody who is going to be holding it for quite a while. It's really nice that it's not too over cumbersome. It's actually kind of evenly balanced, so it's not too top heavy, so to speak. Like the apex is pretty close to what I would consider center of the tool itself. But yeah, so in terms of general pros, those are my experiences. And, you know, there are some cons as a user. The cable itself feels pretty lightweight and light graded. I have a feeling that this is the type of cable, luckily because we do use it pretty often, it hasn't had the opportunity to get stiff. But I can tell that if you left this cable alone for probably like 8 months and tried to unravel it, it would probably crack the plastic and stuff.
I see.
It does feel kind of flimsy too. Like you have to kind of make sure there's some slack, because I feel like if I pull too hard,
like it might detach or break.
It might like snap from the bottom. The box style plug, I just hate those box plugs in general. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know, there's the standard outlet that maybe has a box along the cable at some point, but it still ends in a really, really small two-con plug that you don't have to really arrange stuff around. But there's those type of chargers that the plug itself has the box on it, which makes it kind of weird to orient. Like a lot of these, if you have like an outlet extension, like this is the kind of thing that can only be at the end, because if you put it anywhere in the middle, it's going to occupy like 2 to 3
You don't want to have to unplug your TV and your lamp and something else just to be able to plug in your vibrator. So the plug where you actually plug it in, it takes up a lot of space.
And like we, as mentioned, we bought it for the single specific purpose with no real interest in attaching anything to it. But like if that was a desire, the fact that the head can't be removed means that the attachments have to be built around the entire bulb. And I'm not sure how easily accessible those are, or even if they exist.
I mean, I have seen those on Amazon, but I mean, it has to be specific to the head size too.
The reason why I'm putting it as a con is because this is already $70. It should have some capability, even if it's not the full spectrum, it should have some ability to change a little bit. And that would probably be the con in that, is that if I was buying a $20 wand, I could forgive the fact that it's just doing that solitary function. But the fact that it is $70, like I should have the ability to have some flexibility with how it's used beyond just like the standard bulb attachment and the spectrum of intensity and the vibrations. Generally speaking, that was just kind of my experience with it. And I'd like to kind of dive into your experience as a user.
So I feel like for me, it was kind of, I really had to think about it for the cons, because it's definitely a toy that I basically just kind of lay back and enjoy. I don't have a lot of active participation in it. I don't have to do anything. I just, so I had to think about the cons and really kind of examine it. So I did have more pros than cons, but my pros are that it's powerful. It is a very powerful kind of vibration, and I was thinking about the way that I would describe this, and I feel like smaller kind of handheld rechargeable wireless ones have more of a buzz, almost like a bee, like a little bumblebee. It's not a powerful vibration. It's like a tickle almost. This is like it's reminiscent of like a machine.
Like a pulse.
It has like a motor. It feels like a motor. So it's, when I say powerful, it's not just that it has it's like it buzzes strongly. It's the type of buzz that it is. I think if you're someone who has had these used on them before, you probably know what I mean. Some of the listeners might know what I mean. The difference in the buzz. It's got a good power behind it. But even though it's powerful, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty discreet.
I like that about it too.
It doesn't sound as powerful as it feels.
I think it probably has something to do with the size of the rotor as well. Smaller rotors tend to have to like rotate much more intensely to get the same kind of vibration as like a big rotor that's probably like in this. And so I think when you're describing not only the power but the discreetness and quietness of the actual buzz itself, I think it has to do with the size. I think smaller vibrators probably just can't achieve the kind of power without being, you know, like think of a drone, like when a drone's going real high, like it's really loud.
It's more of a rumble than a zzz. Like there's vibrators that feel like zzz, like it's which can be nice,
a little
but
zippy.
Yeah, it's not zippy. It's a rumble. It's almost like a purr. The lowest setting feels almost like a purr.
It does, yeah.
And then I like the head of it. So the end of it, like is that what you call that? The apex? What is that? The very tip of it is smooth, but the sides of it, the sides of the head are ridged. So I like the fact that it's ridged like that. Oh, and as you're holding it, I'm also remembering another pro about it is that the head is flexible. It's very flexible.
I was just thinking that.
I can kind of like lean into it a little bit.
I can push down on it to get more like of a pressure. Instead of just having it rested vibrator, I can actually push down on it and kind of move it around a little bit. Yeah.
So the head is very flexible.
It's got like a neck.
Yeah. I can really bend. Dang. I guess I don't really
see it in our hands and we're playing with it as we talk about it.
Well, I don't see it as much. It's usually just between my legs. But actually not just between my legs. It is also just a nice little body massager. On that same note, I mean, there's times when I'm like,
anything's a vibrator if you're brave enough, right?
Right. But yeah, it's I like that feature as well, the flexibility of the neck. The cons, I mean, it's like we said, it's not a multi-tool, but most vibrators that I've seen have different functions or settings. It has the dial, it doesn't have any other buttons or anything on it. So it doesn't have any kind of presets. It doesn't have any preset programs or varieties. It's just a solitary pulse that you can control the intensity of.
I didn't really think about that before, but I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't have like a burst pulse or like different like.
Maybe that's on the one that's
the bigger
like
one.
$90 instead of $70.
We didn't get the Pro Plus version.
Yeah, but this one, I mean, it's basic, but it's kind of perfect for what it is.
For what we need, because for a lot of for a lot of the other functions that we would want it to do, we have something
else.
Yeah,
like we have
instead of having a switchblade that has like 5 tools, we have
all the different tools.
We have the 5 tools.
Yeah, if we didn't have other toys, that would be way too basic. It would be it wouldn't be enough. Like as far as our fun times that we have. I think those were, there was one more con. So this one I kind of just discovered. It can cause a little discomfort at certain angles, but then as I was looking closely at it, like I said, I don't really look at it very much. There's a little scratch in the silicone. So I would maybe recommend keeping it in wrapped up in fabric or, get a little case for it, little sleeve or something, because the silicone can get scratched and then that can be kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, luckily this attachment does allow you to remove the silicone, so we could feasibly just get a replacement and it fixes that problem. But we didn't even notice, because there was, as we were kind of spitballing the bullet points of the pros and cons, she had mentioned that at certain angles there was quite a bit of discomfort.
Like scratchy.
Yeah, and so I just kind of thought that
maybe
it
was a seam in the plastic.
Right, yeah.
There's no
but
seam,
as we examine it, there's an actual, it looks like
a little scratch.
Well, it doesn't look like a scratch. It looks like a cut.
Yeah.
It looks like something, like a knife or something. And we're not that kinky, so I don't know. I don't know how they're.
Well, we keep it in the closet. We keep it in the closet, and I was thinking about it. It kind of angles into my little jewelry box, my earring box, and the backs of some of those earrings are a little sharp. I wonder if it leaned against it. However, it got a little scratched.
Well, I mean, so pro tip for anybody who has multiple silicone toys, in case you aren't aware, they should not be touching.
Yeah.
They actually mold into each other,
yeah.
And like it can actually break down the silicone. So
same thing with lube. No silicone lube with silicone toys, right?
There are silicone-based lubes that are safe.
Silicone safe, yeah.
Silicone safe, as long as it doesn't sit.
Yeah.
You have to keep it washed and everything, which you should be doing anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like, for instance, this silicone-headed sheath of the BodyWand can't be amongst other silicone-exposed toys because the actual head will start to degrade, and it just becomes a toxicity hazard because it's moist
seep
and wet.
into your body.
Well, not just that, but it's prime for bacteria.
Yeah.
So there's catch-22s with everything, but yeah, so it's just interesting that there's such a deep cut, and yeah, it's a good note to have.
Yeah, see why I thought it was a seam.
So yeah, that was kind of our generalized experience of it. I figured it would be good to kind of get a fresh perspective on how it functions, so get comfortable. So yeah, I think it's important to get an honest perspective as fresh as possible.
Yeah.
So generally speaking,
powerful. Sometimes I forget how powerful it is. It's pretty damn powerful.
I mean, generally speaking, I think, like, as long as you don't have an expectation for any more than what it is,
yeah.
I think it's probably the most solid of it that you can get. In terms of quality, build, like, it doesn't feel cheap. I think I should say that too, is that, like, it feels well constructed. The plastic doesn't feel like it shifts around. Like, everything seems to be designed with intent.
Yeah.
And, like, ease of access and usability first. So, you know, it is sort of on the mid-tier. Like, we did get the budget version. You know, the bigger ones that have all the bells and whistles tend to be like within the $130 range. So it's definitely by far not a cheap product. Not just but it is budget friendly if you're looking for something that is of a good quality. I think
it's worth it. It's gonna be the one that stays at home. That's kind of your go-to. It's not one that you're gonna really take traveling with you. It's not a one that's portable, but it's definitely a go-to.
One thing I haven't really considered is how water resistant it is, or it's capable of being. But I haven't been into a situation where it looked like there might have been an issue. Yeah. Because again, you can take the head rubber off and clean it. So if it had to be a solid item to be cleaned, I would be you'd probably have to wrap certain openings. Like the dial would have to be wrapped in plastic or something so that water doesn't intrude. But,
well, and having a cord, I mean, don't use it in the shower, right? This isn't something you're going to be using in the shower. It's not waterproof or water. As
far as I know. I mean, they could advertise some form of level of resistance to water, but I wouldn't.
I think disclaimer, just because it plugs in, don't use it in the bathtub, don't use it in the shower. Like, if it gets a little wet from bodily fluids, that's gonna be fine. And
cleaning it again shouldn't be an issue because and if you need to clean the handle, you can just hand clean it with a towel and some solution or something. But
one thing I kind of want to add and you can take this out if you want. One thing I want to add that isn't talked about a lot, that I won't talk about too much during the course of these podcasts, but that as someone who sometimes deals with what I might call chronic pain. It's not talked about a lot, but like thinking about someone who might have a disability or any kind of physical limitation, like with it being so lightweight and so easy to use, I would think it's a good toy for people who might have limitations or
I think no matter what,
disabilities.
toys like this have more of a function for many different people.
Yeah.
Because even like if you aren't the kinkiest person around, you know, it is very, very well known that like orgasming, especially for women, is very beneficial for like managing menstrual cramps, like things like that. And I've even heard that like it can alleviate a lot of pregnancy ailments as well.
And post-pregnancy.
Yeah. And no matter what, it's important to keep your body functioning. Like that whole, if you don't use it, you lose it. Yeah. So even if you're not sexually active, I think no matter what, using your body at least every once in a while just to keep things moving is important. And something like this is very discreet. It's very easy to use. You know, like I don't think it depends. Like unless you're dealing with somebody who's extremely prude, you're not going to get judged if someone sees it. You know what I mean? Like there are some toys where it kind of gets a little.
There's toys that look a little scary. I mean, there's toys that like you probably wouldn't display on your shelf. Yeah. This is something that if your grandma saw it out, it honestly just looks like a body massager. It looks like something you would use for leg cramps. It doesn't look like a sex toy.
Yeah. So it has a lot of. It's very solid for what it is. I think generally speaking, we would put it at like an above average to good rating. You know, if you have the budget for it and you're on the market for something like this, I think the Midnight edition of the Bodyworks or the BodyWand, is probably gonna be a good fit. And you know, if the budget's a little bit of an issue, just look at the features of the Midnight edition and then find an alternative that can, you know, meet those basic requirements but also fit within your budget.
Would you say it's in our top 3 most used toys?
For sure.
Yeah.
I
think so.
And it's like, because there's certain toys that only fit within certain scenes, and then this one, it really doesn't matter what the scene is. It has a purpose somewhere. So. I think generally speaking, it's definitely
probably one of our most used.
And I think it's a really good entry level toy too. Like a lot of people tend to be timid about incorporating toys into their experience because of self-consciousness. You know, there's a lot of mental blocks that can be really distracting from what it should be, which is just an experience. You know what I mean? I think we put too much pressure on the individual contribution to the experience that we kind of forget that the experience as a whole can be better enjoyed if everyone's enjoying it
and immersed in it and not worrying about and that's what I like about the discretion of it. I'm never worried about someone hearing it. I don't have to, that's not even on my mind. I don't have to even think about that.
And it's never really a worry for me, like if someone finds out my sexual proclivities, like it's kind of personal, but like if I'm not ashamed of it by any means. But I do understand that for a lot of people, especially guys, there's certain hang-ups within just toxic male culture. You know, like, oh, you cuck yourself because you can't. When you bring a toy into the bedroom, you're basically saying that you can't make your girl come, and it's so that's.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bad for the people who think like that because it's like, dude, you're like
denying
limiting yourself and your girlfriend or partner, boyfriend, whoever. Like you're denying yourself.
And to be fair, like no matter what, at the end of the day, if this isn't your thing, then it's not your thing, and that's totally fair. But you know, you shouldn't put a mental block on something that could potentially be something that is very beneficial to the dynamic of a relationship, your overall like sexual health and well-being. You know, you're getting satisfaction more than you would have ever really thought possible, type of thing.
Let your freak flag fly.
Let your freak flag fly. I think in general this was a good first episode. We have many more to go, and as promised, we had to kind of talk about the kink of the week or the subject of the week, whatever you want to call it. Kind of pre-planned, but this time I'd like to run the random generator now, and then pick the subject that we then have to kind of mull over and do our own research on while we finish editing this, go on to the next one. So we'll give a sneak peek on what exactly the next one will be. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna bring up a random number generator. All right, I believe the max was 162. You ready?
Yeah.
Should we do just click once? Should we do it 5 times and then whatever the 5th one is what we do? All right, let's just click once. We'll do it together. Just 3, 2, 1.
Oh no. Oh, 156.
156.
Wait, did we cross out the one we already did?
I already know what it is.
Okay.
All right, random number generator was 156. We are looking at
Hybristophilia. Oh, it's a bad boy kink.
wow, yeah.
It's a bad boy kink.
So hybristophilia is behaviors involving sexual activities with someone who is known to have committed an outrage or crime.
An outrage or crime.
Like robbery, murder, assault.
Yeah.
That's funny that it landed on this one because the one right before the one that we picked on this episode had to do with
being fleeing someone on the run.
Oh my god!
This is someone who would want to be with that person.
We just found the kink match. That's so funny. That is so
kink
funny.
Match.
All right, so 156. Next time we'll be talking about hybristophilia. I'm not quite sure if I am saying that correctly. We'll figure that out. Next time we'll definitely talk more about it. But so be sure to join us next time. Follow us on socials. We are going to be releasing periodic content, not only for subscribers, but also just general, behind the scenes, kind of keeping you updated. I'd like to have one of these out maybe once a month to start, but I don't want to put a schedule on it because I don't want to put anything out unless it's done cooking.
Exactly.
So we'll see what kind of momentum we can get with this and go from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, tune in next time.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed.